afternoon. Welcome to the City Club's Friday Forum today. I guess my mic isn't on because other people are still talking to each other. Oh, could it be that you just didn't hear me because you were having such a nice time? Hello, good afternoon. Time for our City Club Friday Forum on the state of the counties. Before we begin, though, I thought it was appropriate to acknowledge one of the people who is fighting very hard, who has been in the public eye for well over 30 years and has served the public very well. And I'm talking about Mayor Vera Katz. I spoke with her office this morning and wanted to give you an update. She still is in the hospital and will be hospitalized at least tonight, but she's doing well. She's up and about. The chemotherapy interacted with some over-the-counter drugs that she was taking for her back. And so the doctors are watching her. She is getting briefings, and she is ready to resume her public duties probably at the first part of next week. But as City Club and friends of the City Club, I would just like to acknowledge that she's in a hard fight, and I'd like to ask you all to stand and cheer and shout and stomp your feet and clap for her. Hey, Vera! Good job. We even had some stomping. So Vera, that's for you if you're watching or listening. You go. Now, about today's program, it was started out to be the state of the counties, and what the program committee had wanted to do was see what was going on in the three, in Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington counties, see what the measures 30 effect had been, and just see how they were coping. That was how it was set up. And for those of you who read mysteries or thrillers and like to follow this chain of events, here's what happened. It turned out that the chair of the Clackamas County Commission, Bill Kennemer, was is running for is in another race. And so City Club rules say that if you are in a race, that you cannot be on the City Club podium unless you are in a debate. So we very graciously told them that we would not be able to have him, and so Brian and Diane Linn then decided how to make their comments, frame their comments so that it would work in the additional time. Well, on Monday, I got a phone call from Tom Bryan's office in Washington County saying that he had a schedule conflict and would not be able to attend today. Well, as it happens, that schedule conflict is because he's very close friends with the family of a young man who was killed in Iraq, and his funeral is today. And so we would like to express our thoughts to all of the families in Oregon who have lost people they love, and the friends and families who've lost people they love or people who have been injured. You may have seen on the news that, in fact, per capita, Oregon has lost more soldiers to the Iraq War than any other state in the Union. Tom's assistant tells me that they are folding flags and putting them in flag cases with soldiers' names on them, and she's done quite a few of them. So our thoughts are with you, Tom. So Diane Linn has very graciously, at the last minute, taken up the slack, and her comments will expand to fill the allotted amount of time. And certainly there has been enough going on in Multnomah County that I don't think she had too much difficulty expanding her comments. So let's get on with our announcements before we get on with the program. I'd like to mention that next Friday Forum will be here, and it should be extremely interesting because we have Brandon Mayfield and Stephen Wax, his attorney, who is a public defender in the U.S. attorneys, or from a federal public defender. I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with the cast of characters. We're still working on getting a person from the government side because we think it's important that we get the government's point of view. The FBI has said that they cannot be here because of the possibility of litigation. We're still working with the U.S. Attorney's Office to see if we can get someone from the U.S. Attorney's Office to be here because, as you know, the City Club likes to have the complete view of what's going on. So stay tuned and come next Friday and see who's here. What we're talking, the title of the program for next week is The Wrong Guy, What Happened to Brandon Mayfield. And he's going to be talking about his experience being held in connection with the Madrid bombings and the fallibility of fingerprints and how the war on terrorism can affect the lives of ordinary citizens. So it should be a very interesting program. Also, some upcoming special events. We're having the town hall meeting on the future of the media. And as you may recall from last week, that is a couple of representatives from the FCC will be here at the convention center, 5:30 p.m., and is co-sponsored by the City Club and the Free Press. And these commissioners are Michael Copps and Jonathan Adelstein. They're the only two dissenting voices on the commission when the FCC drastically loosened the media ownership rules. So while this is not an official comment forum, you'll have an opportunity to make an impact and hopefully may influence changes expected from Congress and the proposed 2005 Telecommunications Act. On June 17th at the World Cup Coffee at Northwest 18th and Gleason at 6 p.m., the new Leaders Council will be having a program entitled Good Information, Better Choices for Healthcare Consumers. And Judith Hibbard, who's a University of Oregon professor, and Philip Marshall, who's an MD with WebMD, will be there to talk on that topic. Our after-work series, True to the Food, is continuing. We have some one-on-one tickets still available for that if people are interested in attending. And our Citizen Salon and dinner discussion events have begun. We had 2 last weekend sold out. They had a great time, I understand. We have tickets left for only 2 that are in July, so please contact the City Club office if you have an interest in attending something that will be good food and provocative conversation and interesting company. I'd like now to go to the 2004 City Club Award for outstanding contribution to the club and to the community. The award was announced on June 4th at our annual meeting that award would go to Patty Tillett, a past president of the City Club. And unfortunately, he was unable to attend at that time. Well, we did have his award there, and it was quite lovely, but it went back to the office. Today we have Patty, but the award is still at the office. So for any of you who'd like to see it, we can bring it again next week and exhibit it. But I would now like to introduce Patty, who has been a wonderful example of what City Club represents both in the community and at the City Club. Patty.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I asked Wade to give me the list of the recent recipients of this, and I looked at this list of very august names, and now I'm even more convinced that I absolutely don't deserve it. But for the same reasons, I'm absolutely thrilled to have it. So thank you very much indeed.
As you may know, Patty was the instigator of the committee that got together and formed the new Leaders Council, which has been an extraordinary help in expanding the City Club's reach. The broadcast of City Club programs this quarter are made possible in part by the following corporate sponsors, and that's Pacific Care, Portland General Electric, and Zimmer Gunsel Frasca. We're very grateful for their support. And incidentally, if you need any more information about any of these events, please go to the City Club online, and you can also get tapes of any of the programs. I'd like now to introduce our guest, Diane Linn, who is the County Commissioner for Multnomah County. And Diane has been in the public eye for a long time, first behind the scenes as Vice President of Programming for Public Affairs for Paragon Cable, and that was from 1981 to 1990, so she knows a lot about what's going on in the media business. From 90 to 93, she served as the Executive Director of Oregon's National Abortion and Reproductive Rights Action League, NARAL. And from 93 to 98, she was the Director of the Office of Neighborhood Involvement for the City of Portland, and then became a Multnomah County Commissioner in 1998 and served in that position through 2001. And she became chair of the Multnomah County Commissioners from 2001 to the present time. Diane holds a BA in Political Science and Urban Studies from PSU and has done extensive leadership training and programs at University of Oregon. She currently lives in Woodstock, and she has a son and daughter who attend Cleveland High School. She's a Portland native and grew up in southeast Buckman neighborhood, so she's very well aware of what goes on in the city and the neighborhoods as well as the county. So please welcome Diane Linn.
Good afternoon, everyone. When I heard that both Bill and Tom couldn't attend today, I kind of started to think, well, what is there to talk about? It's been a really quiet year, right? Nothing going on. Calm, cool. Thought we'd just jump to the Q&A, but I think you all know that it really has been an amazing year at Multnomah County. Who would have thought that Multnomah County would be the first in the western United States to create a local income tax to keep our schools from closing in April? And then more recently, as all of you know, we picked up Time magazine to read how we redefined marriage we became the first place in the United States to issue legal same-sex licenses to couples, upholding the Oregon Constitution. Thank you. Two amazingly controversial things to do in a single year. I am honored to be here at City Club because it does so much to encourage very important discussion and thought on issues that really affect us all in the whole metropolitan area, and I'm sure we're going to continue that tradition here today. I am sad that my friend and colleague Tom Bryant is not here with us from Washington County. We have lost, as Corinne just talked about, 4 Oregon National Guard soldiers in the last couple weeks. It's really hit close to home for Tom and others in our state. I would like to take just a moment of time to reflect, just a few moments, to remember those that we've lost along the way, both from the state of Oregon and nationwide. Back here at home, it really has, again, been a very eventful year. Before moving to issues that I'd really like to talk to you all very much about, I would like to say a few words about what I've learned from my own difficult and sometimes very painful experiences in these recent months. I have made some mistakes. I acknowledge that when I was elected to lead, and with that comes a responsibility to make some tough decisions. I embrace that responsibility and will carry it forward, but I have been reminded that public process is very important. It counts for a lot. I grew up here in Portland, and I know how important public participation is in every debate that we have. I ask you all to watch my actions very closely in the coming months, and I hope and I have complete confidence that you will see that I have embraced those lessons. And I am a better leader because of these experiences. I've also learned a few things along the way from my friend Tom Bryant, and I'm here to share today that we both share a love for the game of poker. We've sat together at tables at Association of Oregon County meetings and played a bit. He taught me a game called Let It Ride, which is a great game of poker. It's a lot of fun. It's a stress reliever, and I have very few of those these days. It teaches lessons, and it's going to serve today as an analogy to reflect on where Multnomah County stands these days. We do hold a lot of strong cards. I want to remind people of the accomplishments during these difficult times. To start, the schools in Multnomah County were opened all this year. A full school year is something we cannot take for granted anymore. I plan to talk more about our local income tax in a bit and the difficulties we face when it expires the end of next year. But I do want to take just a moment to thank the voters and taxpayers for the gift of stability our schools are enjoying in Multnomah County for now. Before we passed the ballot measure, just over a year ago, Portland Public Schools faced a loss of 24 days. Mid and East County school districts were set to lose an amount of very important instructional days also. That did not happen. Also, because of the ballot measure, 780 teachers did not get pink slips and showed up for work this entire year to enrich the lives of kids every day. I am proud and grateful to be a part of a community that is willing to pay the price for our kids. With this local income tax, we also maintained levels of health care and mental health care, and emergency housing and assistance to those most in need in our community. We did this despite federal and state and local budget cuts and the worst economic conditions in 2 decades. Again, Multnomah County voters and taxpayers should be thanked for stepping up and making that possible. In addition to the supports we provided through Multnomah County for schools, it takes much more to help kids truly succeed. We at the county have been able to use existing resources to expand our groundbreaking Sun School Community Program. Our Sun Schools provide traditional after-school programs that help kids learn and stay out of trouble during those critical hours after the school day ends. We know through research that that period between 3 and 6 p.m. in the afternoon, when youngsters are most likely to get in trouble, we need to occupy them in positive ways. And as a mom, I know this very well. Think of Sun Schools as the center of a solar system of vital services that help at-risk kids and their families get what they need to succeed academically in school. The county, together with its partners at the City of Portland and the State of Oregon and nonprofit providers, is at the forefront of this novel approach of using the school building where kids and families actually are to deliver a range of services they need. Instead of going to a city office for this and a county place for that, a State of Oregon office for another service, we are using the neighborhood schools as kind of a one-stop shopping for assistance for families and kids. This time last year, the city and county funded 12 Sun Community Centers. Today, we have 46. We haven't appropriated any new money, but instead we worked with our school partners and existing resources to bolster this priority. Superintendents and principals will tell you that this approach helps kids. So what do Sun Schools mean for kids and their families? Last year alone, the Sun School Community Program averaged about 321 kids at each location who were enrolled in extended day programming. Next year, at the 46 Sun Community Schools, more than 10,000 youths will be in safe places between the end of the school day and when their parents return home from work. Under the direction and the leadership of Lorenzo Poe, who is here with us today, the director of the Office of School and Community Partnerships, we have more than doubled the assistance for culturally specific programs for African American, Latino, Asian Pacific Islanders, Slavic, African immigrants, and Native American children and their families. This is about closing the academic achievement gap. One of the Sun Schools, and I've been out visiting quite a few of them recently, that I visited is Clarendon School in the St. John's neighborhood. Now let me give you a quick description so you get a sense of what this is like. Clarendon, the school was actually built in about 1970. It's an open architecture building, kind of in a round. The classrooms are all on the outside, and there's a library in the middle, and the cafeteria is right there. And the kids come in the morning, and let me tell you quickly about their demographics. Just under half of them have English as a second language, and upwards of 80% of them are qualify for reduced or free lunch program. They come in and they get a warm meal first thing in the morning. They go through their average school day. The teachers coordinate and talk. There's a core team of people that evaluate the kids to see who's doing well, falling behind, either acting out or being quiet, and go in and figure out what they can do to work with their families to help these kids. After school, they get another hot meal. And this is funded through a federal program through the Agricultural Department. And then they go to a homework space and they get their homework done. This is, again, another thing I appreciate as a parent. Then after that, they go play. They can dance, they can play basketball, they can get involved in programs until their parents get home from work. I actually met a little 8-year-old boy at that school that day, and he and I chatted for a few minutes, and he said, I've had some trouble this last year. Talked to the principal later, an amazing guy named Antonio Lopez, who told me that he had called the boy's doctor and found out that he wasn't getting his medications every day. The family wasn't managing that. Had the medication sent right to the school building, and it's administered every day to this boy. And he's doing so much better. You can see it in his eyes. The team at Clarendon School includes a woman named Gabriella Davis, and she is here with us today. And I would like to have both Lorenzo Poe and Gabriella stand. She's the school psychologist there, and we'd like to recognize both of them for their work in the Sun School Delivery Program. Gabriella? We are working hard to expand these school-based programs across the county. It is one of my highest priorities, and it's an example of how we're spending your tax dollars well. This is our premier prevention strategy, and it involves health and mental health and all the things kids need. So, when we're reviewing the strong cards in our hand, the Multnomah County Library System is definitely an ace. And these are some of my favorite statistics. Our county libraries have the most items in circulation of any public library system in the country, nearly 18 million books and other materials. Queens, New York, Los Angeles County are number 2 and 3 after Multnomah, and this is not a per capita rating. 2/3 of Multnomah County residents hold a library card, and 27 books are checked out on the average every year for every man, woman, and child in this county. Just in case there was any doubt, we are running a world-class library system. And our library staff and leadership and the community that continually, including many of you that support that library system, deserve a lot of credit for that. We're also working very hard in the area of job creation. Job is the critical link for so many people, and it bolsters our economy. This is something that Chair Brian and his colleagues in Washington County have really done a very good job at, and we used to joke that, one way to create jobs in Multnomah County was to expand the airport to take advantage of the business travelers to Washington County. Well, the truth is we are helping expand the Silicon Forest to the east, and we are looking at many more ways to do that. When Fujitsu left town, we played a critical role in bringing microchip technologies to the city of Gresham, and they now provide 260 quality jobs. This is the same program we used to attract LSI Logic in the mid-1990s, and they now employ 800 people, and these aren't just jobs, they're careers. Northwest Portland is on the short list of finalists for the expansion of a Siltronics silicon wafer manufacturing facility, and we're working again with our partners at the city and the state to bring, we hope, please, God, 500 more new high-tech jobs in addition to the 1,100 that are already there out at Walker. So as you can see, we do have some strong cards. I want to make one thing clear, and there is one of my poker friends that are here today, Jane Cease. We do play, and when we play for fun, and our stakes are very low. We play what's called nickel, dime, quarter. Lose a buck here or there in a 4-hour period, a 4-hour fun-filled period at a time. When it comes to providing services at Multnomah County, provide services that are things that people really need and want. This is a very, very high-stakes game, and we have, again, a lot of work to do to continue to strengthen our hand. We did suffer a serious blow, yet another, when we saw the defeat of ballot measure 30 this last year, which overturned the legislature's bipartisan balanced budget plan. We expect the impact to the county to be at least $10 million, including the loss of federal Medicaid dollars and other matching grants that disappear along with the state's direct support. Particularly hard hit is the health department, as you can imagine, which lost at least $3 million from just the defeat of ballot measure 30 alone. This forced us to close our Southeast Portland Safety Net Health Clinic and scale back services in many other areas. I know you all know that the Oregon Health Plan is at severe risk. It concerns me that statewide solutions for budget problems don't appear to be particularly close at hand. And it hasn't been a pretty picture at the county level either. Since I became county chair, we have cut our general fund budget 5 times in 3 years. We've cut $61 million, and we have laid off over 500 people. To the credit of our dedicated employees at Multnomah County, despite all of this, and many of them are here in the room, we have continued to provide high-level service to our community, and I want to thank each and every one of them for their perseverance. We have balanced our budget every time and maintained an excellent bond rating, despite the loss, again, of federal and state funds and continued pressures on our local revenue. And again, we're always looking for ways to do things better. At Multnomah County, we're looking to implement a shared services program that eliminates redundancies in each of the departments in the area of human resources, IT, contracting, and other administrative functions. This is a widespread approach in the private sector, and Multnomah County is a leader now in expanding it, and this is a very common sense approach to government. There's another very big wild card in Multnomah County. It's a fact that the personal income tax created by the passage of 2648 will expire at the end of 2005. We asked voters to provide us with a bridge to keep schools open all year long and provide some basic services as we pushed for a statewide solution and hoped for economic recovery. We said then, and I'm saying now, that this would be a 3-year temporary tax. Temporary means temporary. We cannot expect local taxpayers to continue to carry that load, and we must step up our efforts to find a long-term solution. Voters handed us a $32 million lifeline to spare seniors, healthcare costs, healthcare programs, and public safety programs from the worst of the state cuts. We are not going to stand by and watch this additional support float away, and as we speak, the county staff is already working very hard to help us prepare for this sunset. The expiration of this local income tax is also a potential blow to our schools, where the local tax accounts for between 10 and 15% of the overall district budgets, and a higher percent of the classroom spending. Portland Public Schools alone is counting on more than $50 million from the local income tax for the school year that begins in September. This community and others around the state need to step up our efforts to find a long-term solution once again to the school funding problem. A group of district superintendents in Multnomah County has called for a summit later this year or early fall with the local delegation from our Oregon legislature to begin discussing strategies for school funding into the future. This is one step in the effort to find longer-term solutions, but obviously much more needs to be done. I plan to be very actively participatory in this effort and urge all of you to join this very important discussion. There are other areas that we need to look for increased regional cooperation and coordination to maintain and deliver services in the best, most effective way. The 3 metro area counties have just created the Tri-County Healthcare Safety Net Enterprise to improve health access for low income and the growing number of uninsured residents. Our mental health and our addiction services divisions are talking to Clackamas and Washington County about exploring a regional crisis response system. Regional cooperation is also desperately needed to provide an adequate stock of special needs housing and successfully assist residents in our region who find themselves homeless. Public safety is another issue where it makes sense to explore regional approaches. In Multnomah County, we've received over $19 million in federal Homeland Security funds, which will be put into updating our equipment and making sure that our first responders are trained and ready. We are working very closely with local police and fire departments, along with the Port of Portland and other counties in Washington and Oregon, to prepare for events we all hope will never happen. These are just a few examples of issues that don't cross county lines, that don't recognize the boundaries between us. We can all benefit from pooling our ideas and working together. It's also critically important that we continue to manage our resources well. 3 years ago, almost to the day, I made the promise that I would help lead the effort to reform our adult mental health care system within 100 days. Many people thought that was insane in and of itself, from when I was sworn in as county chair. We did exactly that. We were able to dramatically reduce unnecessary hospitalizations, save millions of dollars by working with our nonprofit partners and providing a mobile response team and other ways to intervene earlier in outpatient care. This helped people desperately in need, improved our public safety situation, and saved a lot of money. As in poker, we don't control everything all the time, but again, we are working very hard to strengthen our hand. No matter what the headlines have read, and my responsibility for contributing to them, when you look at what we've been able to accomplish and what this community cares so much about, I would match my hand against anyone's at the table. We have accomplished a lot in this county, and going forward, we're going to rise to the occasion to face some real challenges that confront every county in Oregon. I know I'm looking forward to it and feel very inspired going forward. Now we all need to ante up. I am all in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Linn. As you know, that it is City Club members' only privilege to ask questions, and as your new president, this may be the first time you will hear me say this, but it will not be the last. And I want to emphasize that while we may often have strong opinions in the room on opposite sides of the fence, that's what City Club is about. We want to hear all the voices, and we want to hear them with civility and respect. So that's what I expect of the membership. Members can line up at either of these two microphones to ask questions, but our board host is Marcus Cemental, and today he will have the privilege of asking the first question. Marcus is a member of the Board of Governors, and he co-chairs the Oversight of the Issues Committee. He's a retired farmer and has been active in community affairs for a long time. Marcus? Well, a long time.
A long time. Thanks, Curleen, very much. And Tom, if you watch or listen to this later on, our thoughts are certainly with you, and I miss you today. I have several questions. One, I doubt whether you'll answer, Diane. Who usually wins when you play those poker games? And I'm looking at Jane. I have a long time interest in land use, and if Tom were here, I'd nail him on Washington County land use, but since Tom's not here, I'm going to nail Diane. Diane, Multnomah County has two areas that are just amongst the finest farmlands anywhere in the nation, and in fact, Sylvia Island, I would say anywhere in the world. And it's my opinion that that island truly needs protection from urbanization. As Corleen said, been around a long time. I've seen huge changes, and I think the biggest change in Washington County that I've seen is a conversion of wonderful farmland and forest lands to urban uses. Diane, what are you, as county chair, willing to do over and above what the state mandates to protect Sylvia Island and East County, where truly some of the world's finest nurseries are located and are currently under threat of urbanization?
Call our friends at Metro up, David Bragton and Rod Parker both here. I anticipated a lot of questions. This wasn't exactly one of them, but I will tell you that see, I think the Board of County Commissioners as a whole has been really committed to protecting natural resources. I spent a lot of time on Sylvia Island, and I think we've all been really consistent about protecting the Columbia River Gorge and the areas that are so precious. In fact, I was just up at Mount Hood talking about the wilderness area plan proposed by Senator Wyden. The way I think of it is what's going to work for our kids and our kids' kids into the future. So I think we've upheld a standard better than the state as it relates to land use and decisions we make, with the caveat that we also want to work with people who are living in these areas so that there's some semblance of, common sense as we apply our land use procedures, which are quite complicated, as most of you know. But we've got a strong commitment to that, and it is important work, and we'll stay focused on it.
Doug Marker, City Club member. I'm chairing the City Club's long-term study committee on stabilizing education finance in Portland. And I appreciate what you said about the income tax being temporary. But assuming the legislature does not change the funding formula, what should local governments in Multnomah County have waiting in the wings of the expiration of the current income tax?
Well, I was just remembering the other day that my son started school in 1990. By the way, he just graduated from Cleveland High School, so I'm very proud. Both of my children are Measure 5 children, and we know what that's meant over the years. There hasn't been a committee, an effort, organization that I haven't been personally and directly involved in to work towards a solution on school funding, and I'm going to spare you the litany of time I've spent on this issue. I really want to emphasize what I said in my speech, which is we all better, move towards a very serious public discussion about what to do around this issue again. We are seeing some economic recovery occurring at the state. How much that'll be, how much we can rely on it, whether liabilities are out there is still yet to be known. But the question, we had this concept of a bridge to economic recovery. Well, where is it going to come up to at what point, and how are we going to plan for the difference? And could or should local governments in some way have an ability to reach a level that we all know that our kids deserve? So I'm really happy to be a part of that conversation. I think local governments are going to continue to play a role, but it will not be this tax after the sunset of this particular measure.
Nikki Lynch, City Club member. You mentioned health. Maybe you could go into more detail how severely it's going to be affected by the cuts that are happening.
Well, this is a very tough area, and I think the Board of County Commissioners went through a lot of heartache. Remember, we're a subset of the state of Oregon, essentially. We implement both the programs that are established at the state level, and when the going gets tough and the reductions are necessary, we implement the cuts. It's a very charming place to be when you're trying to provide great services to people who desperately need it. We had a serious debate about our school-based health clinics this last cycle. I think they're incredibly effective, especially as it relates to reducing teen pregnancy. The federal government's backing off on some of that. Lillian Shirley is here as director of our health department. She and her staff have worked so hard to figure out how to keep providing the level of service that this community has said we believe is very important. The hard part is the federal government is disconnected and uninvolved, unengaged, and the state government, as it works itself into discussions on the Oregon Health Plan, is just simply reducing its commitment. And we have to go at it completely differently and figure out a way. This community has been very conscientious on health care. I think the regional pieces could be very important, and I think we're going to have to work very hard to figure out a way to keep people from suffering and from going to emergency rooms and costing the community that much more money. This is a national debate. It's going to be a statewide debate, but we're going to continue to do as well as any jurisdiction in this country is doing here locally.
Hi, Diane, Jane Cease, City Club member. Actually, Diane's a really good poker player.
You've taken my money a few times.
I have a sort of a generic question about sort of the status of the correction system and where you think it needs to go or might go. Could you give us a comment on that?
Sure. Public safety represents about, I think it's 2/3 of the county's general fund budget. Now that doesn't count the overall state and federal funds that come into the county. But we've got a very important job in a strange place in the continuum. The police bureaus who you see out on the streets, we actually do all the behind the scenes, frankly, toughest part of the job. We book, incarcerate in the local jails. The district attorney does his job. We supervise people in parole and probation, and we provide, as well as we can, drug and alcohol treatment and mental health treatment, which I know all of you in the room know is affecting so many of the people that are cycling in and out of our jail system. We've got a tough challenge as it relates to the new, I'm just going to cut to this if anybody's wondering, the new Wapato jail facility passed by voters many years ago. We did build it on as promised, but the world has changed dramatically in that time, and we've got to figure out a creative solution for the use of that state-of-the-art facility, and we're going to work with the state. The sheriff's taking the lead to figure out maybe we can take on people transitioning back into our community and do a better job of transitioning and use that facility well, as opposed to building other jail or prisons in other parts of the state, since we have this one here. We have to manage those jail beds, but more importantly, we have to manage the flow of people in and out of the system, analyze what's going on with those folks, how many of them are getting arrested again because they failed to appear in court. Are they an additional threat, or is there other ways to go at that? We're exploring electronic monitoring, which is another way to go. And the budget notes for this last cycle really indicate exactly the steps we're going to take to use our jail space and our continuum much more effectively into the future.
Tamsin Wassell, City Club member. Back to economic development. It seems to be a hot topic that even we at the club are talking about. You talked about a few things that are on its, hopefully, on the radar screen for economic development. But can you talk more about the tools, methodologies, and strategies that the county actually has at their fingertips, I guess, to help economic development? Because it does seem like the state's trying to do stuff, the region's trying to do stuff, the city's trying to do stuff. So what is it that the county really has to offer in this approach?
What's our role in this? Very good question, actually. I think local governments are really where the rubber hits the road in economic development. You can do a lot of work at the state. The governor's role in attracting people, meeting with CEOs, traveling abroad, and bringing people back is important. But I think we're the ones that have to make it work on the ground here locally. Clearly, the city plays a huge role, but the one specific strategy that we've used is the strategic investment program. We rely on, as everybody knows, a high property tax in this state, having only two legs of the three-legged stool, something we've struggled with for a long time. That will flush out any operation that needs a lot of land. So the strategic investment program, after $100 million of investment, earns an abatement after agreeing to a fairly extensive list of kind of benefits back to the community. That's the LSI logic and the microchip deal right there. That's what we will do to help attract Siltronics. We are competing against Singapore, and I don't have to tell any of you in the room that the labor costs in Singapore are decidedly different than they are here. I think they need their jobs too, but we want to attract them here, and the strategic investment program in coordination with all the other tools of the other jurisdictions makes for a package that will help attract them. We haven't been an active participant in the past, and I think we need to be, and there are taxation issues that will be important to discern, but we've got to be active at making business work in this town, because that's what pays for the services I think a lot of you are here to hear something about. So, and by the way, a good job is the best poverty program imaginable, so it is important.
David Margulis, City Club member. Chair Linn, as a follow-up to your discussion of job creation, what you were just talking about, the tax system, it was mentioned in the Oregonian earlier this week. It said county officials say there are fewer businesses around because some have folded and others have moved outside the county. Throughout America, they say the biggest job development is through small businesses. I have a business with 15 employees and their families. And I have many anecdotal situations where people have told me, we went out to Cruiseway, your neighbor's county,
Very happy
left
to oblige
downtown,
Clackamas County.
and
Yes.
left Portland as both customers and business people operating in downtown Portland out to Washington County. What could you do to reverse this? And they primarily blame it on the business income tax.
Thank you. Very good question, too. I've been talking about this, if any of you followed my career for a while, the business income tax reform. There was an effort last year. Didn't pencil out very well in terms of how, another way to approach that. It just didn't pencil out. We have, and it relates to smaller and medium-sized businesses, one concept on the table, which is to reduce the exemption for owner's compensation, which I think will help benefit a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. And I believe the statistic is that's where 80% of the jobs are created in a community like ours. We have to make this place really welcoming to business. We have to support people in what's impacting their business. And a lot of what I've talked about today in terms of mental health, drug and alcohol addiction, the correction system has a big impact on the business environment, especially in downtown, inner southeast, inner northeast neighborhoods. And I don't have to tell you all who walk around downtown what I'm talking about. Now, it doesn't help that people are being dropped off the unemployment polls and are losing their health coverage as every day passes, and the state's struggling to take care of the teenage foster kids who have fallen out of the foster care system. And I, again, believe we're doing an extraordinary job of managing the homeless youth group in downtown Portland. And again, it's tough work. But we've got to be very responsive to what's going on. And I'm worried a little bit in this community about our struggle, our debate, our conflicted orientation around business. I really think we're going to need to look hard at our taxation issues, chunk down what is contributing to that decision to move over to Clark County, which is what I hear about more and more, and out to the other counties. Not that we don't want to send you all jobs, but we need them here. And we need the economic engine of this state to be strong. So this is another community discussion we have to continue to have.
Hi, Diane. I'm Susan Pierce, member and member of the Hosford Abernathy Neighborhood Board, as you know.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. As a member of the board, I sit on a number of committees relating to things going on in the Central East Side Industrial District, which straddles our neighborhood. There is a lot going. There's almost as much going on in those two jurisdictions as there are in my county, Hosford Abernathy and Central East Side
I'm so
Industrial.
sorry.
It's kind of exciting. A lot of things going on in Central East Side right now, are potential things going on. They're looking at the Burnside Bridgehead. That's been controversial. The possibility of a big box store, which was one of the suggestions. We'd like to see the streetcar come down, hopefully MLK Grand, and that's essentially your backyard. And this is also a sort of a land use question, because that is an industrial sanctuary at the present, and people have various visions for where that should go from here. It's the source of a lot of jobs in the city of Portland, and what should those jobs be? So one question, even though I know that a lot of what goes on in the Central East Side has more to do with the city, metro, and PDC, I'm interested in your vision and your thoughts. And then my other question has to do with Hosford Abernathy specifically. We'd like a library, and we know exactly where we want to put it. What are our chances?
Let me answer the last question first. You know, I've been a part of public processes to cite jails and halfway houses, and the one personal favorite is the PSRBs, which is the Psychiatric Review Board homes, where people who've been convicted of pretty severe crimes need to be cited in places once they've reached a level of manageability. But I can't tell you how difficult it is to cite a library, because everybody wants one right next door. They are so wonderful, and they're such an asset to the neighborhood. And I've just had the privilege of being a part of opening about, I think we're at 6 new library facilities, and again, we've renovated every single one, including the Crown Jewel in downtown Portland. Monteville neighborhood is recently been expressing interest in reopening a library that closed in the early 80s. The problem is, in complete honesty, is in the last levy, we indicated our intent to look to Troutdale and to North Portland as the next 2 sites for neighborhood library branches. And right now, we literally don't have the resources because of compression and all that within the library levy funds. So my honest answer is it's going to be a while. You can start, but that's my honest answer. The answer to the other question's trickier, because we are really on the periphery of a lot of the issues, and again, sometimes it's best to let other jurisdictions take the lead, and you got to know when to hold them. Stand back. If I can keep the analogy going here. We really have not been involved too much in the intricacies of that development. While I've been very supportive of Connie Hunt and her team in the Central East Side Industrial District, and I grew up about 12 blocks from there, so I've been watching it for years. The jobs are very important. The freeway issues have been extensive. Many of you have heard a lot about that over the years. The way we, I think, can support the effort is by weighing in and participating when the time is right. The bridges are our responsibility, except to the point of the bridge head, and then the city takes over. I think we can participate productively and work with the neighborhoods to see what's going to work best. But that Central East Side neighborhood really has got great potential, and the promenade and all has been a great improvement. In fact, many of us enjoy it walking from the Multnomah building. But we'll work with you into the future and see what we can do to help out.
I'd like not to think that because I cautioned you about civility and respect that all of the questions were going to be disrespectful and uncivil. So please do feel free to line up, and thank you so much.
Actually, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Alana, and I'm a City Club member. And I live right next to the Hillsdale Library, it just got renovated, and it's absolutely beautiful. However, I felt that the old facility was just fine. And I wonder why, I'm sure, I don't have the facts, so I don't know how much it costs, but I'm sure it cost a couple $1 million to build. Why not build, and it's a very upper middle class, it's a upper middle class neighborhood. Why build a brand new library there? It's very aesthetically pleasing when you could spend that money in an area that has a lower income, or spend that money on schools.
Well, this is a very interesting question, is how do we assess our community priorities and manage them, again, and it's going to take a lot, and this is a really wonderful setting to have this question come up, because we all have to put our heads together about how to balance these things. The bond that was passed to renovate all the libraries, I think if anybody in the room remembers, it was the early 90s or mid 90s was passed to begin the renovation of all the libraries. Remember, we were in economic boom times, and people, I think, was passed overwhelmingly, yes, let's renovate our library branches and downtown. The Hillsdale Library is, I think, the highest usage library after downtown of any other library in the system. And the building was becoming more dilapidated, and I'm here to tell you that I am very glad that we did renovate those facilities when we did. And guess what? Once again, we are ahead of the curve. Most other library systems missed that economic boon to do that, and I bet now they wished they had done what we did. The question of how you weigh those priorities are very important, and as times get tough, that question gets harder to answer. That's why, as county chair, you hear me talk so much about schools. If we can get a child graduated and on their way to community college or into a vocational program, the chances of them ending up in our very expensive systems of care are exponentially less. It's not my primary responsibility. It's not a part of the county charter, but the more we can all do collectively to support kids getting through school productively, the better. Libraries are connected to that. I feel that it's such a gift to do a job that has to do with where the library building is, where the school building is, how the park functions in every neighborhood of the county. And all of it has to fit together to support primarily our kids, our seniors, our most vulnerable, and believe me, all the rest of us benefit in the process. So let's continue that conversation too in terms of the balance. Good question.
Thank you.
Emily Gottfried,
Hi,
City
Emily.
Club member. I wanted to ask you a question about affordable housing. I know that Washington County is trying to step up to the plate by creating the Community Housing Fund, and they're gathering people from business community, government, and even the interfaith community to work on putting together funds for affordable housing. And I know that the federal government is cutting funds for affordable housing. The Section 8 funds are going to be way cut. It's a terrible problem. What are the plans from Multnomah County for affordable housing?
So we're very actively engaged. Diane Luther's here for my staff as the housing director at the county, who I brought on to help us do this. We've got a variety of activities going on. I'm serving on the Blue Ribbon Committee to look at funding opportunities into the future. While I want us to be very clear what it is we're trying to achieve in that process. I actually spent about 3 years as a county commissioner before I became chair, chairing the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee to look at, it was a regional strategy that included both other counties through Metro, and we worked very hard to come up with some tools and ideas and positioning, and we were able to delineate if everybody took on a part of the problem, this is what it would look like for each jurisdiction on a regional level. I happen to believe that every neighborhood, every jurisdiction should have a mix of housing, both low-income, a mix, and that's best for everybody in the neighborhood. It should not be concentrated, and Multnomah County has taken on, the city of Portland has taken on a lot of that responsibility in the past. We are going to be very aggressive about this issue, Emily. I'm glad you asked, because for us, we could do a fantastic job in Pate's department in Human Services of taking care of people who are, trying to recover from drug and alcohol, trying to get back on their feet after being incarcerated, managing every day with their mental health challenge. But if they don't have a place to live, all of that is a investment that we lose. So for us, it's a central piece of what I'm trying to do moving forward. And again, we'd love to work with Washington County. It sounds like, again, I mentioned it as a regional commitment. So thank you.
Ken Galvin, City Club. We haven't mentioned gay marriage, have we? I would like to congratulate all of you for that particular decision. It reflects in, if you don't remember Richard Florida's book, The Rise of the Creative Class, that things like Dignity Village, a lot of these innovative ideas that are inexorable, they're part of the future, we can't stop them. You've been innovative and willing to move ahead in that sense. Cities that are gay tolerant, that are creative, have a future. That's where the jobs are going. That's where it's happening. And I'd like to congratulate you and ask you how much you've thought in those terms about creating a creative class in Portland, and out of that building more jobs.
Well, I simply have reflected, as you can imagine, many times on, including Mary Lee was one of the first to get married in Multnomah County, on the couples, 3,000 in total, and their children who have been honored and a part of our community now, that they have been able to be legally married, and for that I am so proud. We had some real issues and serious challenges around the process, and I think I've addressed that a couple times. The city of Portland has talked a lot about creating more of a creative class, and I think it's part of Portland's culture, and it's a wonderful, quirky way, and I hope to do everything we can at the county to help promote that. Welcoming and honoring and celebrating gay and lesbian couples is all a part of that, and I think in, I don't know, what's your guess, 5, 10, 15 years, we'll look back over this particular chapter, and it will not be a big issue. I think we'll be beyond it at that point, and thank you for your question.
I am Oliver Massengill, City Club member. A related question, same-sex marriage is not an issue I feel very strongly about. Frankly, I'm puzzled by the intense opposition to the whole thing. I am also puzzled by the process that the county commission underwent, where one commissioner seemingly was deliberately excluded from the whole decision process. As a result, you got some intense criticism of the Oregonian, of the public, even to the suggestion of a recall effort. Why was this process so seemingly unfair and one-sided?
Well, that is a very fair question. There is simply no excuse for the fact that Commissioner Lonnie Roberts was left out, and I publicly apologize to him and to the community about that. I think that because we were looking at a procedure as it relates to adherence to the Oregon constitutional language, which I think 4 legal opinions have upheld, we were concentrating on that piece. Again, I've learned the hard way that you have to engage the public in these discussions. The result of what we did do are the 3,000 marriages, and one particular moment that I was able to reflect was a couple women came into a restaurant I was in and introduced me to their three-year-old son, and they said, well, this is a woman that helped us be able to get married, and he looked up at me and said, you can come to our house anytime you want. This is the sweetest moment. For me, it's really about that. It's really about the families. We're going to see what the legal process brings into the future, and again, I hope I've expressed as deeply as I can to all of you that I will take the lessons I've learned from this extraordinary experience into the future, and I think it'll make me a better leader. Is that a good place to end that? I think so.
think we're lucky to have the City Club as a forum where we can ask our government officials questions like that, and I thank Commissioner Linn for her honest answers and for the intelligence and soul searching that has gone on these last few months with all of the issues that have arisen. That's also why we're looking forward to having someone from the government side next week, because we think our government works for us, and they should have an opportunity to explain to us why they're doing what they're doing in some cases. So we are adjourned today, and thank you for your attention, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.